Right. Shall we? Okay, so welcome to the 2025 open forum for the at-large board member election. This is here, we're going to just do this video format. Not everybody likes text, and honestly, being able to kind of interact with people and have a bit of a conversation is always a really good way to get a sense of what people are all about. So we will kick things off with a quick introduction. So there are bonus points. We're not actually collecting points, but bonus points for candidates who are able to give a solid introduction to themselves within 30 seconds. So this is the first challenge of this session. 30-second introduction. We're going to do a bit of like a either popcorn, or we can kind of pass the mic on to the next person if that works well. So I will nominate the first person to do their introduction, and then we can pass things along. Shall we? Are we ready?
Let's go.
Okay. I will select Maya to be
Ladies first. Thank you. Yeah, I'm Maya. Hi, everyone. I'm based in Montreal. I'm fairly new to the Drupal community, but I've been with Evolving Web agency based in Montreal for now 3.5 years, and I'm the lead organizer of a Drupal community-driven event called Evolve Drupal. Ran 8 conferences, summits, and welcomed over 1,200 people over those 8 summits over the last 2 years, and have built my own community since then, participated and attended a lot of other conferences, obviously DrupalCons, and now I'm excited for another next step and help grow the community even more.
Fantastic. Thank you, Maya. Do you want to pick another candidate to go next?
Sure, Alex, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alexander. Pronouns are he, him, and I'm a technical architect at OpenSocial. And my journey within the Drupal community started in 2012, just over 13 years ago, with building a sports website. And later I've been able to turn it into work. So that's been really cool. Spoken at quite a few Drupal events over the past years. And really excited to be here with other great candidates to hopefully move the Drupal community and the Drupal Association forward. Carlos.
Hey everybody, my name is Carlos Ospina. I used to be a technical account manager with Acquia. Today I'm the co-creator of the IXP program to bring new talent to Drupal. I started in open source in 1996, Drupal 2012, and now I'm going back to work with Latin America and try to get more of the other markets into Drupal. And I nominate Matthew.
Thanks, Carlos. Which Matthew? Matt or Matthew?
You're Matthew, that one is Matt.
There you go. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew Saunders. My pronouns are he, him. I've been working with Drupal since 2006. I've been part of the community for nearly 2 decades, and over that time, I've helped organize 18 years of Drupal Camp Colorado. I'm a volunteer with Drupal GovCon. I served on the Drupal Association board about a decade ago. I co-founded the Event Organizers Working Group. I was an organizer for DrupalCon Denver, spoken at over 30 events, and advocated for diversity, equity, and inclusion through my work in neuro-inclusion. I'm also co-maintainer of several Drupal projects. These days, I am the AI ambassador at Amazy, where I'm working to make Drupal AI tools accessible, ethical, community-driven. And also in that capacity, I'm a member of the marketing and outreach track for the Drupal AI strategic initiative that was announced this past Monday, with Amazy being designated as one of the first AI makers.
And the next person?
I'm gonna nominate Matt.
All right, thank you. So I'm Matt Glaman, he, him. You may have seen my name, M. Glaman, if you're using PHP Stand Drupal, which I'm a maintainer of. I've been doing Drupal for about 12.5 years now. and have had a unique experience where I haven't just built websites with Drupal, I've built businesses with Drupal as a platform. So as a software as a service 2 or 3 times. And also my time at Centauro, previously Commerce Guys, building Drupal Commerce as a previous maintainer. So working with open source to build revenue and build businesses in a different model than just building sites on it in the agency model. That's a bit about me. I think that was the last
Fantastic.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think we got everyone. And I'm going to throw a quick introduction for myself out there before we move on to the next step. My name is Faye Loren. I have been on the board for getting very close to 2 years now. So we are, of course, meeting the candidates today. Hopefully one of these lovely humans will be taking my place on the board. Outside of the board, I have been part of the Drupal Diversity and Inclusion Initiative, and I've been pretty active in the DrupalCon world. I'm sure there's lots of other things, and I'm just forgetting them. But I use she, they pronouns. That's a good one. Okay, so next phase of this this session. So if you have questions for the candidates, please include them in the chat. I have the chat open. I also have a list of questions that we pre-sent to all of the candidates. So I will go through some of those, and if I see any come up in the chat, I will bring those in and we can ask those questions. I'll prioritize anything from the community. All right, are we ready? Yeah, okay. So the first question on the list today, and again, we're going to go popcorn. So if you have an answer, please feel free to jump in, but also be cognizant of time. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak, and that we can get through as many of these questions as possible. So try and limit your answers to a minute, maybe, if possible. First question. How would you help strengthen grassroots engagement and contributor retention, especially among new and historically underrepresented communities?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So grassroots engagement is really at the heart of how I originally came to the Drupal community. I joined a small agency, and within a few weeks, I was involved in co-founding Drupal Camp Colorado. That was way back in 2007. And I've seen firsthand how local camps, meetups, regional events bring new people into the fold. And they also keep longtime contributors energized. I think that the DA should be continuing to prioritize support for these regional ecosystems through logistical help, fiscal sponsorship as needed, and promotional amplification. I think the international federation concept that's been talked about recently is a really good idea that's going to help fill some of those gaps. But I also think we need to address contributor burnout. I think that we spend a lot of time celebrating, and retention isn't just about that. It's about infrastructure, it's about clearer contribution pathways, it's about mentorship models, incentives that don't burn people out. I think we need to keep investing in contributor days and events that prioritize learning and collaboration, and that really needs to be worldwide. I think we need to figure out how we democratize that more. And we need to remember inclusion, especially in today's difficult environment. I think creating space for contributors from marginalized communities, including neurodivergent people like me, isn't just a value add. I think it's essential for a thriving project. Psychological safety and accessibility in our tools and processes have to be in the DNA of the DA. It needs to stay as a core value and as a priority.
I will add to that. Oh, I was ready, sorry, Maya. But yes, I was with Faye when she did the boss of diversity in DrupalCon Lille, when she asked one of the most important questions: are we North Americanized too much Drupal? And we have, if you remember, Faye, that interaction with the guy from Turkey about the keynote that happened before, how it affected them in a different way that we will never think about it, because it is like that was hard for us to hear. I've been talking in front of the board in Atlanta about the difference in different regions, like, having a $200 monthly salary, minimum salary in our countries in Latin America versus $1,000 partnership is completely different. I have worked with DrupalCon Latin America in 2015, and I've worked with Latin America forever. We created the IXP initiative and now IXP program. And the main reason for that was not to bring new talent into the United States to be consumed by United States agencies, was to develop new talent in our region. So the main idea was to, have US companies hiring US developers, but also have Colombian companies hiring Colombian developers, Brazilian companies hiring Brazilian developers, and doing that across the regions. I talk a lot about Latin America because it's what I know, and I'm from one of those regions that are not being included really. And I'm so excited about the federation as well, because I think it's the first step in all these years since I did DrupalCon Latin America 2015 that we're actually working or talking about a global community and not a US community, which is what has happened up to today. Everything is about, we think about those communities. I nominated myself because I am from those communities and I know the realities. I'm not just know what I see in the news.
Thank you, Carlos. Maya?
Yeah, thank you. I kind of like to talk about the CAMs that Matthew mentioned. Of course, there's so many CAMs, but I think because of COVID a few years ago, it has decreased. And like I've spoken to so many other Drupal camp organizers over the last few years, and everyone is seeing less attendees. So I think it's super important to bring people back together in person and to build a bridge between also the technical contributors and the existing community, but also a bridge between those and the broader digital ecosystem that Drupal needs to connect with. So like marketers, UX designers, product teams, to get more out of the bubble that we currently have. And we've successfully started that with Evolve Drupal. In fact, 40% of all our attendees are usually outside the traditional Drupal space, like agency leaders, marketers, like I said, designers, but we also invite a lot of government people, nonprofit people from the higher ed industry. And there are obviously some conferences like Digital Collegium, formerly Higher Ed Web, or EduCause and PC Web in Canada, and they're doing a great job, and we're bringing Drupal already into it. And I know, like last year, Drupal had their own booth at Higher Ed Web, Digital Collegium. So I think that's a great way to utilize that and again build a bridge and bring more of the younger and newer people into it and spread more knowledge of like what Drupal actually is, and get the young crowd to also come and join the Drupal space.
Thank you, Maya. And then we'll hear from Matt, and then there's some questions coming in from the community, so we'll pick up one of those next.
That actually segued perfectly about like the young crowd, you could say. So I'm thinking back to when I started 12 plus years ago. I found Drupal, and then I found a local community in Milwaukee. There's a Milwaukee 4-4 led by David Snopek. That made it successful because there's so many people doing Drupal as a job, like as a business owner, as independent, like small shops. And Chicago had it too, but Chicago had a huge consolidation. There used to be 6 agencies, now there's 2. And also, less people are doing Drupal necessarily. And I honestly see the marketplace as being one of the solutions for this. People work with software that makes them money. Laravel is hot because people use it to build software as a service, and it's got that buzz around it. Drupal's marketplace I see as a way to us catch some of that buzz, which brings new developers. They want to build stuff that makes them money. People want their little side gigs or that become their entrepreneurial gigs. If we build that, then we'll have groups of people who are building with Drupal who are motivated to have meetups because they want to show what they're building and be competitive. And that will give way to more meetups, which means bigger camp attendances, which means also reaching other developers who maybe didn't have their eye on Drupal. So it's like an Ouroboros, kind of snake eating its tail. We need to grow Drupal's business to grow meetups, which grows adoption. And I think the marketplace is one of those catalysts for that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Like the International Drupal Federation initiative is one I'm really excited about because I think it's really important we meet people where they are, and we have all these local initiatives that are already doing that. But making sure that we bring that all together and can really support that in a global way, I think is really important. And also, I think as a community, we're already really good at telling our own story within the community and getting each other excited about all the things that Drupal is doing. But I know from experience of going to conferences outside of the Drupal community that there's much less going on about Drupal. And I think that's a shame because I hear other developers talk about the tools that they use that they're paying for. And I think often Drupal can replace those tools, but those developers are not getting the story of what Drupal is capable of. And I think if we go out there and beat our own drum and encourage speakers that are currently within our community to also go to events outside, I think that can bring in a massive pool of new talent.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Alexander. Like one of the things that we've been doing in Colorado is actively reaching out to other communities like the WordPress community to bring people in who also have similar values around open source, but bring them in to talk to us, and in turn that opens doors for us to talk with them. I think at the end of the day, that can only help the open source community as a whole. Because at the end of the day, who are we really competing against? We're really competing against the commercial ventures.
Okay. So I think we've actually touched on some of the answers for this next question, but I'm gonna read it and open it to the candidates anyways, just to see if we can tie it together. So the question is, the economic climate is possibly the worst it's ever been for Drupal. What do you perceive as our biggest challenges, and what are some clear actions that the DA can take to positively affect a community that is increasingly at economic risk? And what can you personally do to influence the DA towards that end?
Yeah, I think
I will start. Oh,
Hold on, Carlos. You
go
go.
ahead, go ahead, Carlos. You go
Okay.
first.
yeah, I was already asking. I think the biggest problem we have is I've been calling it, we are in a chicken and egg situation. I call it the pyramid, Dries call it a funnel, but we lost the bottom of the pyramid, the top of the funnel, however you want to see it. We lost the hobbies, we lost the small markets, we lost the low budget projects.
Yeah.
Those low budget projects are the ones that grew. I believe it was NBC or one of the big companies using Drupal. It started with somebody doing a POC on Drupal inside the company. That is gone, but we're trying to bring them back. And we need the Drupal CMS for that. And to bring market, we need the federation. And to bring other market, we also need to give value to Drupal certified partners. Everything is happening at the same time. We do need the people that is the agencies that are making money, still making money, let's say that way, to help so we can bring the others so we don't need them. We are in a chicken and egg is what I call it, because without this, we don't go anywhere, but without what we have right now to create that, we also don't go anywhere. One of the things that is important is we have Drupal CMS, we have the IXP initiative that now is a program to bring new people. We have the Drupal Federation, etc. We need to work on all of that through these difficult times so we can bring more markets. We need to give value to the Drupal certified partners so the DA is sustainable, because without Drupal.org, we will not be okay. We saw what happened to the people that lost WordPress.org access, and that was not good. So we need to keep that going. We need to do DrupalCon events, regional DrupalCon events that are actually a thing, and they need to be geared towards being actually regional, like bringing Colombia, Latin Americans in Latin America, Asians in Asia, Africa. DrupalCon needs to happen as well. I mean, every region that needs support at the beginning, but I truly see it in the future just being their own thing. And we need to bring business, not have our events and even camps just being agencies with agencies, and the only thing that we do with the small market, with Latin America, with India, with Ukraine, that are cheaper developers, is use the developer for US and EU business, we actually need to develop Latin America to be able to do business with Latin America. So the marketplace is a great idea. Having a way to get a site 70% with a low budget, $1,000, $2,000, now open other markets, other businesses. Having the IXP help that open those markets, because now we have interns and people that can work on those, and agencies have a new model of business. So we need to start thinking on all of this like as a whole, but everything depends on everything that we're building. So all the things that we're building depend on each other, and that's the biggest problem, that chicken and egg. We need experience builder, but we need the IXP, and we need the federation, and everything is, and we need the marketplace, but it's just being built.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Maya. You put your hand up.
You were talking first though, so go ahead. I was expecting to go.
I agree with Carlos around making sure that we can open up Drupal to the hobbyists, to the small businesses, and so on. I think that we lost that when we moved from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. It became much more difficult for sort of regular people to actually build things at that point. And we saw what happened. There was such a focus on only the enterprise that we lost that big bottom of the pyramid that Carlos is talking about, and focused entirely on large projects that could bring in the maximum amount of money. And that was a strategic error on the community's part. And there were those who decried that and said that it was the wrong direction to take. But that's where we are now, and this is all exacerbated by the fact that we've got a really poor market from a job standpoint across tech. It's not just Drupal. It's if you take a look at what's happening across tech as a whole, it's basically a bloodbath. I think that there are some things that we can do as a community that can help sort some of this out. And I think part of it is the artificial intelligence strategic initiative. I think the fact that we're building tools that mean that site builders can get into a Drupal instance like Drupal CMS and actually build AI tools without having to touch code is unbelievably powerful. And there's really nobody else in the open source community that's doing this kind of work at this juncture. Nobody is doing it. I think that we're in a position where we can use MCP, model context protocols, to create a foundation, almost like an infrastructure, with using Drupal, which can provide a whole lot of opportunities for companies and organizations, both small and large, to build remarkable things that can help buoy the overall market for people, not just in the United States, but in pretty much every country in the world. But we have to be disciplined, and we have to be focused. We need to be able to we need to be willing to put in the resources, the people, and so on, to make that happen.
Thank you, Matthew. So Maya, and then I believe it was Alexander, and then Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, I think these are all great points that you're all mentioning. I think it's important to, first of all, diversify both community and revenue. Like, we have great tools, and the DA has done a great job. The marketplace is a great initiative. I totally agree with that. But how do we get people, how do we make them aware, first of all, about this? So we need to diversify the community, reach out to them, and like invite, not just reaching out to just more people, but the more types of people, right? Like I mentioned, like designers, marketers, and then teach them about what else there is, how they can utilize Drupal and all the initiatives and the marketplace. So one way of doing so is, I believe, obviously the events, and there's an opportunity to reimagine DrupalCon. think about the purpose of the event, like maybe we can add a marketing summit in the beginning to it to attract marketers instead of just making it Drupal focused and inviting again those who already know Drupal. And overall, there's an opportunity to get funding from, I think, end users and end user organizations, and also grow our number of certified partners instead of just using agencies. Obviously, we need to work on the agencies. We need to collaborate maybe even more. Like every agency has so many contacts in their database. Every agency is already working with organizations. So maybe we can leverage them. Actually, like I can speak for Evolving Web now, we could try to reach out, especially with our events. We already have so many more in our network now that actually don't know anything about Drupal, but let's provide all these agencies maybe with easy to use communication templates and utilize them to reach out to more people and spread more awareness. In terms of events, I think making them more inclusive, low cost is also one thing. We've learned that by including also this organizations themselves, like for example, at our summit, we invite Harvard people that are using Drupal to speak and share their story, like user cases. I think that could help, and we've seen it. It helps people creating interest amongst other folks from the higher ed industry in this case, to also wanting to attend and learn more and see, okay, how are they using Drupal? So utilizing that at conferences, but also maybe just through, not just, but through case studies on Drupal.org. Like let's add more case studies on there to really see and hear from like tell human stories, basically. That's one thing. And did I have one more? No, that's it.
Thank you, Maya.
So
Alexander?
yeah, so I think there's two aspects to it. I think one is the sustainability and funding for the DA to be able to support the community. And I think another important aspect that I see is that there are some modules that we find in the community are really important, but it's really difficult for the maintainers to maintain them because they need to convince the organization that they work for that this module is also advantageous to that organization, and they may be hired for the Drupal skills but be working on a module that maybe doesn't match the organization that they're at. I think there is an opportunity to see if we can combine that. Like, how can we as a community figure out which are the modules that are really important for us, and maybe figure out funding there. I think Drupal CMS for me there is really exciting for two reasons, because I think it helps the community show what are these modules that are important, but also because it is the first product that we've built with Drupal. And I think that's an aspect of Drupal usage that is somewhat maybe under covered. I think Matt started with it. He has built 3 companies on Drupal. I work for an organization myself where we don't resell Drupal, but we use Drupal as a tool and sell a solution to end customers. And I think right now, if we look at funding for the Drupal Association, it's mostly focused on visibility. But these kinds of companies are not necessarily looking for visibility within the Drupal community. And I think we can better tell a story there of what the Drupal Association is doing to keep the community healthy, to support the community, and why buying into the Drupal community as those kinds of organizations is beneficial to them as an insurance to make sure that the tools they are using remain maintained in the long term and to cover that business risk for them.
Thank you, Alexander.
Matt,
what do you think?
I want to be the candidate that pushes back on the continuing story that Drupal's hard to use and that's why we lost market share. We lost market share because of SaaS, WordPress.com, Squarespace, Wix. That took our the new people that were coming into Drupal that fell in love with the site building tools, found software as a service tools that were affordable or the same cost as running a site and building it. We did lose existing community members over that. I will acknowledge that, but we lost growth because of the SaaS option. We are now addressing that. with Drupal CMS, I believe, because we are offering an out-of-the-box experience with Experience Builder Drupal CMS that competes there. And maybe people will launch their own versions of Squarespace Wix with that. But also, we kept talking about how Drupal's hard and we didn't get any new adoption. If anybody's built a JavaScript application, NPM is really hard to work with. Pip is hard to work with. People are building companies with other languages, with Rails, with Django, with Laravel. They're building things with these frameworks that have their own quirks and building businesses and generating revenue. But we never marketed that with Drupal that, hey, you could build a business and make money besides doing an agency site. And I've always seen that as one of our quirks and our very Drupalisms, where it's like, oh, Drupal is for just agencies and building sites where there's a platform that you can build with. And I see, again, I'm coming back to the market. The marketplace was my catalyst for deciding to run. So the marketplace is our foot in the door, our little baby step to say, hey, you can use Drupal to make money. Making money with Drupal is not a dirty word. And I feel like when I first started with open source and Drupal, that was kind of like a no-no, like, oh, we're doing it for intrinsic value, which is true, but also people deserve to be paid and do work for the work they do. So the question was about the economic straits we're in. So I think the economic straits is empowering grassroots level people, entrepreneurs, to build things and make money with Drupal, and that will help lift up our economic situation.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, I just want to quickly remind folks we have a lot of questions that we want to get through. So if we can try and keep answers under a minute, then we'll get through more of them. Okay, Carlos, go ahead, and then we'll ask the next question.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to what Matt is saying. Our common friend Matt and Ryan has been saying that when he do the marketplace, he wants to use a template for commerce sites that are ready and charge X amount of money. He's talking $1,000 to $2,000, and it gets you 70-80% of the way with support from Centauro. That is the future for me as well in the marketplace. Not just having a team, is actually giving a small company in Latin America a way to start a full using the whole power of Drupal. Drupal is not hard, it's just too powerful. And it's scary because it's too powerful. The biggest problem of Drupal is if you ask if you can do something in it, the answer is yes, always. And now doing any project is $50,000, $70,000, even with us Latin Americans. If we can get started with $2,000, $5,000, get 70% of the way, a whole new model of business opens, especially for the smaller budgets. And yeah, I just wanted to double down on that. The marketplace is something that I will be very focused on.
Thank you, Carlos. All right, next question from the community. At the end of your term, how will you measure if you were a successful board member or not?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would be looking to have increased community trust in the DA through transparent processes and communication. I feel like it has been more opaque in the last number of years than it has been previously, and I think that that's a mixture of fear of pushback. I think there are a bunch of things going on there. I want to see expanded participation, especially from underrepresented regions and groups. And that's people, that's places, but it's also looking at marginalization in a different way. As folks probably know here, I've focused heavily on neurodiversity and neurodivergence over the last number of years, and that's because folks who are neurodivergent are typically have an unemployment rate of 40%, and college educated people on the autism spectrum are typically at an 85% unemployment rate, not because they're not intelligent, not because they're not talented, but because they're different. So I'd be looking to figure out how we can expand participation in that space. I want clearer contribution pathways for newcomers and returning contributors. I still think it's hard when you end up at a DrupalCon or a Drupal camp and you go into the contribution sprints. It is still super hard for people to get involved. And part of it is the number of people that are available to help new contributors. But part of it is that and sorry, Matt, but it is hard. It's not hard for people who are developers who have lots of experience, but it's hard for a regular sort of Joe to figure out how they fit into this ecosystem. Um, once you gain the skills, I think it becomes easier. But to pretend that any kind of software development isn't hard is sort of a mistake, I think. And then the final thing is support for emerging tech. Actually, I've got two other things. Support for emerging tech like AI. I want us to, as a community, to be firing on all cylinders and supporting it in an ethical, open, inclusive way. And then finally, kind of the elephant in the room is governance, right? You're joining a nonprofit board, and that means not top down power. It means being a servant leader and understanding how a nonprofit operates, what the duties are when you join a nonprofit. I'm a governance nerd with over a decade of experience sitting on nonprofit boards. I wanted to bring this experience back to the DA.
Thank you, Matthew. Would anybody else like to chime in on that question?
Yeah. For me, it would be two. I would want to see a growth in funding from organizations who use Drupal but are not themselves reselling Drupal. I think that would show that we're better able to tell the story of the importance of the DA for those organizations and in sustainability of the project. And I would love to see an increase in the number of talks about Drupal at non-Drupal conferences. I was at a web conference a few years ago, and I asked people about Drupal, and they were still very hung up on Drupal 7, and then telling me about all the cool services that they used and were paying for to build their things. And for almost all of them, I could say, well, you could just use Drupal for that with all of the things we've already built, and you don't have to pay for it. And I think if I can go back to a conference like that in 2 years and talk with someone and it'd be like, yeah, I'm using Drupal now for my backend services, that would be a job well done.
Thank you, Alexander. Carlos, what do you think?
Okay, I'll try a minute. I have four things. One, at the end of my term, there will be more regional inclusion, including DrupalCons and that are regional and are happening around the world as not as an experiment, but as a necessity. And regional models for use of credit contribution and business that are according to the realities, cultural and regional, because it's different. I will have an expanded talent pipeline program, like my IXP. I will try to find better ways to grow it because we need new people. And this is a fantastic way, not only to bring new people, but to improve the contribution difficulties that Matthew was mentioning, and increase the participation of companies in there. I will work and I hope to have steps into making Drupal.org an actual business hub that actually brings value to Drupal certified partners. So when we go to smaller regions that we don't get the answer I got that said, like, what's in it for me? Why will I be a Drupal certified partner if I don't get anything business-wise out of that? It's just an expense and it's expensive for me. And that's what Latin American companies told me directly. We will have a little bit more of economic sustainability across regions, and that is by giving value to different communities. They will become Drupal certified partners, and it's easier to maintain. And I will push hard for all the chicken and egg situations that we have, Drupal CMS, marketing, federation, because we all need those to, when tech recovers, we're ready for it.
Thank you, Carlos. Maya, how would you measure your success as a board member?
Yes, thank you. So for me personally, I think, like I said, we need to get the young community involved and the new, like, out of the box, go more out of the box. I'm young. I think I can speak the same language as other people. I'm not a developer, but I can talk to the marketers and get more people involved. So for me personally, I think to measure success, it would be to have implemented a new, like, obviously gotten more new community members signed up, get more funding from end user organizations, get them more involved, have them become certified partners. And because the event and the conference part is close to my heart, I think I can truly help the Drupal Association to put what I've built over the last 2 years successfully, and use the playbook of that for the Drupal cons and also for other conferences outside the Drupal association and the Drupal world to raise awareness of Drupal and get more people engaged.
Thank you, Maya. Matt, success. What does it look like for you?
Part of mine is what Alexander said. But for me, like 2 years isn't a lot of time, honestly. Like 2 years isn't a lot of change to make a big change, but you can set a lot in motion. So like the way I view success is kind of anecdotal. When we launched Drupal Commerce 2, people had like ad hoc launch parties. And I got a picture of an agency, like a small agency out of Pakistan that made a cake and sent it for me. And that was the moment where just like kind of like the world froze for a bit. I was like, I'm building something being paid, but somebody built their career off of this and the impact that has. So I'm hoping to see that there's some rumblings in the socials or more like that, and to just scale that feeling of people being entrepreneurs, building with Drupal. And we can kind of look and say like, businesses are growing. Like people are changing their lives and building with Drupal and creating new businesses, new jobs. And just, if I can see a thread of that at the end, that is success to me.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, we do have lots more questions, but if I want to take a moment, we are running out of time a little bit. I'm going to save 5 minutes or so at the end for closing statements. So if anybody else has any questions from the audience, now would be a really good time to drop those questions in the chat. So the next one that we have here is, what would you like to see the DA and the community at large seat doing by the end of your term that is not happening today?
I can go for this quick. Or Maya, you can. I saw you going. Do you want to go, Maya?
Yeah, sure. Again, like, I'm repeating myself, but I think it's important to diversify, right? And promote correctly to the right audience to grow Drupal again. So I think if the DA were to include more people that are currently that might be using Drupal right now, but are not actively involved in the Drupal community by, for example, going to a DrupalCon and speaking there or other conferences, we should try to get more non-technical sessions on the program to like case studies, like I mentioned earlier, so that other people find interest in also learning more about it and then attend and then learn through that also more about what other amazing tools there are and what other amazing features Drupal is able to do, or Drupal CMS, etc. So, and I think in general, other communities I've just mentioned now, marketers, designers, but also obviously getting more women involved, the younger audience. Like, I think we need to diversify more, and the DA is already doing some of these things. I know at DrupalCon you've had, I think, women's leadership or women's in Drupal breakfast or lunches, like things like that. And I think that's already a great first step to do so. But how do we get people aware of that who are not already aware of DrupalCon? So utilizing the network, other camps and other conferences, and including more really non-technical case studies to start the conversation is, in my opinion, a super valuable thing, and would help the DA, in my opinion, to to grow.
Thank you, Maya. Matt, I think you were going to say something about what new initiatives, what would you like to see coming out of the DA and the at-large role that is not happening today?
I would say part of it, like putting the pedal a bit harder on innovation and reaching out. So I don't know necessarily it's a new initiative. It's one that's been a slow burn so far, I think, where the DA is showing up at trade shows as Drupal with a booth. IRCEs, the Internet Retailer Convention and Expo in Chicago. It's one of the biggest online. Having like presences there, we're like we build out into other markets, not just like the content management one, but more broadly there, or even embedding technical speakers in like PHP Tech or other ones. This does dive more into the developer part, but a lot of times developers are technical. They can bring back to organizations to adopt technology or start businesses as founders. And that could be one if the DA could say, we're having issues breaking into these other conferences and people may not be able to afford to go on their own, if the DA could find like an ambassador from the community to give like a super technical talk about some of the things that make Drupal really unique into these other conferences that are like PHP related or something of that sort. So maybe just taking the initiative and the existing initiatives with the outreach, but just really pushing it forward extra.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I'd like to riff a little bit on what Maya was talking about around diversifying, because I think one of the challenges the DA has had since the beginning of the DA is actually diversifying revenue streams beyond DrupalCon, and it's put the DA frankly at risk for its entire existence. I remember sitting in a board meeting at one point where we were talking about the fact that that an event wasn't getting enough tickets, and that that it was an existential threat that if one of the DrupalCons were to fail, and that's when the decision was made to reach out and work with the vendor in Europe instead of running it ourselves at that point. So I think that we need to diversify revenue streams beyond DrupalCon. We need to ensure that global and low resource contributors are able to contribute in different ways. I love the fact that we changed the membership model to Ripple Makers. I think it's a step in the right direction, but I'd love to see even more flexible tiers and push for more regional partnerships. I think the AI Strategic Initiative is an example with the right model that the DA can raise money in different ways. I mean, the DA raised $120,000 for that initiative pretty quickly. But it's a different model than we traditionally engage in. And I also think that we could go back to some of the experiments that worked way back in the past. I was part of the D8 Accelerate donation fund drive where we got D8 across the finish line, and it became sort of an international party when that happened. But it took money for us to be able to do that. So I think it might make sense for the DA to start thinking inside the box in terms of traditional nonprofits, and have an annual fund drive, because people, if you ask people, they will help out. And we tend to shy away from just saying, "Hey, we're an awesome resource for you. We would love it if you'd help out, once a year or twice a year. Chip in $50, chip in $25, chip in $1. But we don't ask. We just don't ask. And part of it is that we don't tell our story well enough. I know that the DA does a lot behind the scenes. I know it because I'm friends with quite a few of the board members, and those stories aren't told fully. And I feel like if we communicate the value, we can attract more donors and sponsors who align with that vision, and we can more strongly protect the foundation of the DA. Because if the DA goes away, we as a community are really in a lot of trouble. We need the DA.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Matthew.
for me, I would love to see that we as a community have more of a, well, I was at first I was thinking developer advocacy, but I absolutely agree with Maya that it probably should be a Drupal advocacy program. I think if we look now at our conferences, then there are so many amazing people that the track teams can choose sessions for, and there's people we're rejecting, and that just shows the huge amount of talent within the community to hold talks. And I think as a community, we should be looking more outward of where we can spread that message. And I think that is both in the DA to support and encourage that, to actively go out to speakers and say, hey, great talk at this Drupal event. What would you like to go to this other event that might match what you're talking about? But I think also some awareness for the community, because I think I was speaking with someone at a Drupal event recently, and I mentioned like, hey, this thing you're talking about would be really cool even outside of Drupal. And they came back to me with, oh, I never really thought of speaking at a non-Drupal event. So even as a community, we can raise awareness there. And then I agree with Matthew. I think the DA can be better at promoting themselves. Right now, the only way to find out information on Drupal.org about the Drupal Association is by going to support Drupal. But I think if you're in the moment where you want to support Drupal, you're already quite far in your journey, and just bringing the work of the Drupal Association, and hopefully soon the International Drupal Federation Association and all the local associations more to the forefront also of the Drupal homepage and the Drupal communication, I think can help show what the organizations do for the community.
Thank you, Alexander. And Carlos, what are your thoughts?
Okay, I have about 5 things. So to begin with, at the end, the board should have real regionalized views, not like thinking on how this affect a market where monthly payments are monthly salaries are $200, $300. How does this affect a different culture when we put something on an event? Have an actual representation that is not related to the big business that we've been living in the last 10 years in US and in Europe. I mean, we have had people from Asia, but really are coming from agencies that work in the US market. We have not had representation that is actually from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia or other parts of Asia in the board. This might be a little bit controversial, but do more, talk less. When we started with the IXP initiative, we had a lot of people coming and saying, oh, I love it, I want to help. But when we asked for ideas, nothing happened until at some point, me and Mike Canelo and my wife decided, okay, everybody did whatever they wanted to do and talk. We are going to have a program. The program is not perfect, but the best program we can have is the program that we have that's actually working and start somewhere. And the board should do the same for other initiatives and community-led initiatives that exist out there. We need to keep pivoting as we have been doing with Drupal CMS, and accepting that we need to think more business-like a little bit, because funding is important and that needs to happen. And one of the things that we need at the end is we need Drupal.org to be the source of truth of Drupal. If you put any AI, Google, to teach you about Drupal without telling them anything, you will realize that Drupal.org is not one of the sources.
Thank you, Carlos. Okay, so we have about 3.5 minutes until the end of the call. I would like to invite the candidates to offer any closing statements or thoughts that they might have. But again, we've got 3.5 minutes total. So if we could try and keep them under 30 seconds, and then I will share a few final reminders about what happens next. And then that's it. Then we're done.
I
Okay.
got four words: stewardship, transparency, accountability, inclusion. They're embedded in how I lead, and whether it's helping camps grow sustainably, or or guiding governance overhauls at the DA, or mentoring young autistic professionals at Next for Autism. I lead by listening, connecting, and showing up consistently, and I believe that I can help effectively help govern the DA.
Thank you, Matthew. Maya?
Sure. I think what differentiates me mostly that I want to just highlight again is I'm young, I'm not a developer. I talk the language that I think is important to talk to marketers, designers, to others outside the Drupal community, to invite them and get them on board with us. And yeah, be transparent, inclusive, and strategic thinking. Definitely my values.
Thank you, Maya. Anyone else?
No, yeah, I mean, I just want to say I think we're at a really exciting time with Drupal, and there's a buzz of activity there. I think there's a bunch of great candidates. If you're watching this and you haven't watched the recording from this morning, not everyone that could be there this morning is here now, so also watch that. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be hopefully be able to help as a as the Drupal Association board member, but otherwise even just in sharing in these kinds of discussions here.
Thank you. Anyone else, Matt?
Yeah, finding Drupal changed my life, got me involved in open source, and I want to find ways to rinse, repeat, and flip that and scale it, because I would be nowhere near where I am today with the opportunities, the fact I've met nearly everybody on this call once in person. Never would have believed it. So that's, just trying to find ways to do that.
Thank you, Matt.
I guess I'm the only one that is missing. So I have organized an actual DrupalCon in a region that is not the US. So I really know, I am from Latin America. We have not had any representation from Latin America in the board or near the board ever in the 10 years that I've been around. I just don't identify problems. When we saw the difficulty of getting my son a job, we co-created the IXP initiative that now is a program, is working, and people is using it. So that's what I want to bring to the board.
Thank you, Carlos. All right, we have about 45 seconds left. I think we can do this. I just want to thank all of the candidates, especially those who made it to both of the calls. I'm sure that you are tired. I hope that you have an opportunity to take a nap before going through the rest of your day, or to just call it a day. So thank you so much for your time and all of the thoughtful answers, and to the community. Thank you for showing up and participating. Community engagement is so important. So thank you.
You as well.
Thanks, everybody. This was a great conversation.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And
So-
don't forget,
Have a great day.
yeah, sorry.
Don't forget.
The important dates. Make sure that you are a Drupal Association member on time, at least 24 hours before voting opens. And that will happen, I believe, on the 18th of June.
Nailed it. The 18th of June, voting begins, and then 11th of July, voting closes. And don't leave it to the last second, because time zones can be a gotcha. There are also blog posts for each of our candidates. So if you haven't taken a moment to read the blog posts, I encourage you to do so. And other than that, we'll find out who will be taking my seat on the board on the 15th of July. And that's
Thanks
it.
so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.